times a day, Jews recite this prayer: "May it be your will that the temple be speedily rebuilt in our own time." It's a prayer they prayed for almost 2,000 years. But Jews here in Jerusalem are doing more than just praying. Just a few steps away from the Western Wall, rabbis and craftsmen are building what they call a temple in waiting.
We're supposed to build a temple, and nothing about that changed. Nothing about that commandment changed.
Chaim Richman is a director at the Temple Institute in Jerusalem.
The Temple Institute is actively engaged in research and preparation for the resumption of the service in the Holy Temple, to the extent of actually preparing operational blueprints for the construction of the temple according to the most modern standards.
This menorah is just one of several vessels created for the next temple. It's covered with 95 pounds of pure gold and has a price tag of $2 million. Piece by piece, the third temple is taking shape, with priest garments, vessels of copper, gold, and silver, and a new generation of Levite priests, specially trained for temple service.
We have enough in place now to resume the divine service and to build the temple. But obviously, a lot of things have to happen in order for this to happen.
Gershon Solomon leads a group called the Temple Mount Faithful. They commissioned these cornerstones for the third temple. The 6-ton stones were consecrated with water from the biblical pool of Siloam and cut with diamonds.
The Temple Mount, 35 acres of it, is the most explosive piece of territory on the face of the planet.
Jewish leaders have already established a training center in Jerusalem where temple priests are now learning how to offer the required animal blood sacrifices and to conduct the daily temple services.
Now, of course, there's limits on exactly what sacrifices we can do because of the state of impurity that we're in. Some sacrifices we can't do without the ashes of the red heifer, but the Passover offering, national sacrifices we can perform in a state of impurity.
So what's stopping the Zionist Jews from rebuilding Solomon's temple? What's stopping them is a Muslim shrine called Dome of the Rock, which was built in 691 AD, right over the top of the ruins of Solomon's temple. It is one of the world's holiest Muslim sites. This sacred real estate is, without a doubt, the most dangerous real estate on planet Earth. The Muslim Dome of the Rock is the elephant in the room. The Zionist plan to rebuild Solomon's temple on sacred ground must, by necessity, be a plan that reduces the Muslim Dome of the Rock to rubble. Building Solomon's temple means the Muslim shrine must fall, either by a natural disaster like an earthquake, or a man-made disaster like an exploding bomb. A man-made disaster would surely be the spark that ignites World War III.
When a British monarch is crowned, an elaborate ceremony takes place which resembles the ritual crowning of King Solomon of ancient Israel. King Solomon ruled over ancient Israel and had extensive knowledge of the Kabbalah, which he used to communicate with demons. King Solomon is the single most important figure in the occult teachings of World International Freemasonry. The ancient Goetia is a book of powerful invocations and spells written by King Solomon. These ancient spells and evocations were used to summon spirits who were then psychically tortured and forced to serve King Solomon. The Goetia contains descriptions of 72 demons, some of whom control their own army of lesser demons. King Solomon evoked and imprisoned these spirits in a bronze vessel sealed using magic symbols. Goetia explains how the spirits can be compelled into obedience. The Goetia describes a demonic royal hierarchy of spirits, many of which are referred to as knights, princes, and kings. King Solomon ruled ancient Israel from the year 970 to 928 BC. Satanists, occultists, and Freemasons worldwide venerate the memory of King Solomon, who owned a magic ring engraved with a symbol called the Seal of Solomon. This gave him power over the invisible monarchy of demons. This Seal of Solomon is better known as the Star of David. It is this symbol which is encoded into the $1 bill. It is also the flag of Israel. Magicians and mediums who consult with spirits have always been employed by the royal elite. In medieval Britain, Dr. John Dee was consulted regularly by Queen Elizabeth I. At the British Museum in London, we see the dark mirror which John Dee used to see or scry the faces of spirits. Dee's ability to communicate with spirits led him to be employed as a spy, developing psychic espionage techniques, which we now call remote viewing. John Dee attended Trinity College in Cambridge, which became a place where occultists and the world of spies were intertwined. Aleister Crowley also attended Trinity College. In 1904, he wrote an introduction to an ancient book of spells called the Goetia. Soon after, Aleister Crowley followed the footsteps of John Dee and worked as a spy for Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service, MI5. Dr. John Dee was secretly initiated into the secrets of the Kabbalah by Rabbi Lowe in the 1500s. The Kabbalah offers a route map which is called the Tree of Life. Discarnate spirits, some angelic, some evil, occupy each point on the Tree of Life. These spirits can be called forth and invoked to serve the magician. Medieval astrologers and Kabbalists such as John Dee were hired by monarchs to plan their wars, or to experiment with alchemy, trying to transform base metals into gold and thus increase the already spectacular wealth of the monarchy.
Once World War III has come and gone and the Muslim shrine has been destroyed, the new Jewish temple of King Solomon will be built over its ruins in Jerusalem, and a king will sit on the throne chair. There are three important texts that predict an apocalyptic Third World War, which would give rise to one world empire and one world king. The Bible's Book of Revelation, the Illuminati's Protocols of Zion, and Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. A statue of Albert Pike stands today on a pedestal in Washington, D.C. What did Albert Pike do to deserve a statue in his honor on federal land at the foot of Capitol Hill? Albert Pike was the sovereign pontiff of Universal Freemasonry and a known Satanist who possessed a bracelet which he used to summon Lucifer. After the American Civil War, he was imprisoned for treason, but thanks to Freemason President Andrew Johnson, Pike was pardoned. By 1869, Pike had become the National Chief Judiciary Officer and Grand Dragon of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan in Arkansas. By 1871, he published the Masonic handbook known as Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike was also the author of a military formula for 3 world wars that would advance the world government agenda to its final stage in the 21st century. World War I, said Pike, must be engineered to overthrow the Tsars of Russia and make Russia a fortress of atheistic communism. World War II must be engineered to destroy Nazism, strengthen political Zionism, and create a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. World War III must exploit the conflicts between the Zionist state of Israel and the Islamic states so that they mutually destroy each other. Divided and exhausted by war, the masses will receive the light of Lucifer brought finally out into the open. Albert Pike's vision for World War III is now taking shape in the Middle East, where the engineered conflicts between the Zionist state of Israel and the Islamic nations are coming to a head. Proof of a world government conspiracy is uncovered on our Seeing is Believing tour of 5 U.S. cities, starting with Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado is home to America's largest airport called the Denver New World Airport. The airport was built by Freemasons in 1995 and features a Freemasonic dedication capstone in the atrium. A time capsule is buried underneath the stone to be opened in the year 2094. The New World Denver Airport has a swastika-shaped runway. There is reportedly a deep underground military base beneath the airport, with miles and miles of secret subterranean tunnels connected to a large network of underground cities. As passengers drive up to the main airport terminal, they are greeted by a sinister-looking 32-foot-high fiberglass blue stallion, with veins popping out of its body and demonic eyes that glow bright red. Not exactly a calming influence for travelers who are already spooked about getting on a plane. The sculpture is believed to symbolize the pale horse of the apocalypse mentioned in the Bible, whose name is Death. The sculptor, Luis Jimenez, was killed by the horse when a chunk of the sculpture broke loose and came crashing down on him. Locals call the horse Blucifer. Inside the airport, travelers hurry past grotesque gargoyles in suitcases that leer down at them, and morbid apocalyptic murals that line the airport walls at the main gate. 4 panels of giant-sized wall murals in the baggage claim area tell a terrifying and prophetic story in pictures of how humanity's future is going to unfold.